Shalom. Our Torah portion for this week is Noach, and Parshat Noach is famous for the story of the flood that involves Noah, who was the most righteous man of his generation. And you may remember the story from Hebrew school, if you attended Hebrew school. Noah is commanded by God to build an ark and to assemble animals 2 by 2 and to lead them on to the ark. And there Noah and his family and this menagerie of animals would survive a 40-day flood. And Noah and his 3 sons and his wife and his daughters-in-law would emerge from the ark and to begin once again the human race. Now, there is another story also found in Parshat Noach, and it concerns the Tower of Babel. And between these stories, between the story of the flood and the story of the Tower of Babel, there's a genealogy that I find rather interesting, a genealogy that mentions Nimrod, who is a very interesting character. I'd like to share with you that particular passage in chapter 10 of the book of Genesis. V'chush yalad et Nimrod, hu hechel lihiot gibor ba'aretz, hu haya gibor tzayid lifnei Adonai, al ken ye'amer ken Nimrod gibor tzayid lifnei Adonai. V'tihi reshit mamlachto Bavel ve'erech ve'akad ve'chalneh be'eretz Shinar. And Cush begot Nimrod. He was first among the earth's heroes. He was a mighty hunter before the Eternal, for which reason it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Eternal. His choice domains were Babylon, Erech, and Akkad, all of them in the land of Shinar. Now, this mention of Nimrod comes just before the story of the Tower of Babel. And according to the Midrash, Nimrod is a central figure in this story. The name Nimrod is interesting. It seems to have some association with the word merid in Hebrew, which means rebellion. He was a rebellious sort. And when it says he was a hunter before God, the word before, lifnei, might be translated as against God. He was a hunter, a carnivore, a meat eater, in opposition to what God had proclaimed was permissible for human beings up to that time. Human beings had been vegetarians up to that time, but Nimrod had a taste for meat. We see that he was a soldier, a mighty warrior, a gibor, as it says in Hebrew. And what does he do? He becomes the first king mentioned in the Bible. Not just a king of a single kingdom, but something of an emperor. He conquers the northern part of Mesopotamia, which later on would be known as Assyria, and the southern part of Mesopotamia, which would be known as Babylon in later days. And his rebellion, if we see the story flowing into the story of the Tower of Babel, concerns a rebellion against God's dominion. He is a tyrant of the first degree. He is actually the world's first tyrant. And what does he do? He does what all tyrants do, and that is he makes himself the center of all things. He tells the people that their welfare is totally dependent upon him. When it was pointed out to him that when God had become displeased with that earlier generation, the generation of the flood, God had caused the flood to happen and to destroy humanity, except for Noah and his family. Nimrod said, I'm more powerful than God. I'm going to build a tower that's so high that God can raise up the waters as high as he wants, and everyone will be safe. You and your welfare are dependent upon me. I am God, in other words, is what he was saying. And so he imposes upon the people this incredible building project. As tyrants often do, he taxes the people. He impresses the people into work to build this huge tower that will reach to heaven. In this way, he says, we will make a name for ourselves. We will become God. This is the ultimate rebellion. And what does God do? God sees this project for what it is. This is a project the likes of which every tyrant creates, whether it was Hitler or Stalin or Saddam Hussein or Pharaoh. A big building project to focus the people's attention upon their own glory. God sees this project and destroys the temple, destroys the tower. And God does something rather interesting. God confounds the speech of humanity. God makes all these people speak a different language. And what are we to make of this? People under Nimrod spoke one language. That certainly seems to have been maybe a positive development. All of a sudden they can't speak the same language. The implication here is that God does not desire conformity. God doesn't desire a conformity in speech and behavior and in belief. That built into God's vision for humanity is a more democratic, a more diverse notion of what the human race should consist of. And the people are scattered all over the world. And there seems to be implied in this story that God holds that each human being has worth and dignity and should be afforded the right to express him or herself. I hope that you will read this week's Torah portion and come to your own conclusions. Shabbat Shalom.